Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Loree Bischoff, and we're about to start talking some shift. Today, here's what's up. I really want to talk about the importance of becoming your own guinea pig and doing your own experiments and studies on yourself when it comes to figuring out what the heck is going on with your health. I think that too often we just blindly rely on oftentimes limited information from our well-meaning doctors. And sometimes it works out great, but I think a lot of times there's really no conclusion as to the causes of what is going on with us. So we end up with remedies in the form of prescriptions and stuff that just eases our pain and brings us to a state of comfort. And I just think that we need to be way more proactive about finding out the causes of what ails us, and less willing to just simply mask over things and find a place that is comfortable enough to just live with. So my guest today did exactly that. Practitioner and inventor Eileen Durfee is a former nuclear power plant quality engineer, inspector, auditor, and real estate builder and developer who became sick due to chemical exposure. She suffered from chronic pain, allergies, Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, and lack of energy. And these symptoms resulted from her body not eliminating the toxins to which she was regularly exposed. And it really prevented her from living a very fulfilling and comfortable life. So Eileen embarked upon a quest to heal her body. Her journey to overcome her health issues led her to become an inventor and a businesswoman. She discovered what solutions worked and decided to use her knowledge and experience to help others. She offers a variety of health solutions through online web stores, including near-infrared saunas, which we're going to be talking a lot about, air purifiers, ozone generators, and healing food salts. She also provides consultation as a practitioner in nutritional balancing science. I am so happy to have you here today. Welcome, Eileen.
Well, thank you so much. It's nice to hear that other people want to go from artificial health to natural health.
I think a lot more people, I think more and more every day, and probably more than even a lot of us realize. Everyone that I talk to, and of course that's part of my business too, so it's what I'm immersed in, but people are really tired of just being offered prescriptions. And when we start working together and they start doing even just small things, changing their diet or eliminating some things and moving a little, and they start to see results, and then they start to say, wow, I got to get off of this prescription med. I got to get off of another one. My doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And so, I think that it's contagious and it's catching on. I think, people are slowly coming around to taking more responsibility for their health, which is obviously what you did. I think that there's just less willingness to tolerate and to accept what doctors tell you. So either way, I mean, sometimes people, a lot of our stuff just is self-imposed. And sometimes then, of course, health issues are imposed upon us in one way, shape, or form. And then sometimes people are just born with something going on. And so all of those things, though, I think oftentimes brings people to the conclusion that it's just the way it is. I just have to live with it and manage it. And you know what? That's the thing that I'm so excited about talking to you about, because I would really like to poke some holes in that belief that I just have to live with it and manage it the best I can. Because your story, from what I've heard, is, you questioned those beliefs, you questioned everything, you went out, you just started using yourself as a guinea pig, and you were literally driven to invent your own way to wellness. So let's start with your story.
Well, I was almost a miscarriage. And when I was born, my body was twisted. I used to have wear special shoes because my one knee would turn in and hit the other leg. So I was in constant pain. I mean, I grew 9 inches in 3 months. I was ran over by a car in a parking lot And so every breath I took hurt. I couldn't move my arms. So, I had structural issues, but then I became allergic to everything. I mean, I had to rotate the foods I ate. Couldn't eat chicken for 72 hours, couldn't eat beef for 72 hours. I was gluten-free. I ate paleo, in the 80s before it was a thing. And so because of the antihistamines, because I was allergic to, like, if somebody had perfume on or any kind of a chemical, anything like that, my lungs would close up on me. My eyes would swell shut, and I just had a horrible time with it. And the medications just made me feel sleepy, and it didn't necessarily get rid of all the symptoms. And so the journey started. I mean, the Yeast Connection book, I thought then all my problems were because of Candida. Then, I did the Barnard Jensen cleanse and, diet and supplements and, tried a variety of other things. And when I found out about Dr. Paul Eck and hair analysis, it was just one more thing that I was going to try. I didn't have any idea that it would transform my life so much. And so I got a hair analysis, and it was like, previous to that, I was taking a lot of calcium and magnesium because I was having problems sleeping. And it helped me, go to the bathroom. And so it was all good, but I just kept on having to take more and more. And then my joint pain started cropping up. And I didn't realize that all that calcium wasn't going where it was supposed to go, and it was going in my joints. And I was my worst enemy. I was actually causing a new problem, even though I was medicating others. So when I got to hair analysis, they have a very specific, amount of supplements, minerals, vitamins, glandulars, those kinds of things. And some of the stuff that I was taking, they said, stop, because you're making this other problem worse. So it was kind of hard for me initially, because I got on that program because it was supposed to fix my Candida. Well, the first thing that went away was my joint pain and my panic attacks and my insomnia, and I started to have a little energy. It wasn't until about a year later that I started noticing a difference in my Candida. There's a ratio on hair tests, a zinc copper ratio, that if ideal's 8, mine was 38. I mean, anybody over like a 12, we know that they've got issues with Candida. So it was so bad. And, so I really began to realize that Candida is not my problem. It's my adrenal glands, because they're not holding copper into solution because they're so wore out. I'm so stressed out. It's just like a swimming pool, with algae in there. You use a fungicide that's copper based. So there's a lot of people that have Candida problems that lead to leaky gut, allergies, all these different problems that I was having. But it was really tied back to the adrenal gland and stress.
But a lot of people without your background, Eileen, probably wouldn't be connecting some of these dots, because, that's just, it's kind of technical. You're talking about these biological functions and how they're responding to the supplements. And so, I mean, awesome for you, because because of your background, you were able to start kind of connecting dots, which I think is so fascinating. And, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that background and may not just connect any of those dots. But I wanted to ask you before you continue, the hair analysis thing is so fascinating to me, because that seemed like it was the beginning of the turning point for you when you got that done. And I don't recall ever in my life being to a doctor, or anybody that I know going to a doctor and saying, oh, they suggested I get hair analysis done to find out, what's going on with me. So why isn't that more common? How do we get that done?
Well, first of all, there's no national standard of how you have to prepare the hair and test it. So there's a lot of labs out there, but the results are inconsistent. Even in New York, you're not allowed to get a hair test because there was a Supreme Court issuance. But basically, there's 2 labs that use a set of standards that I totally agree with, because you can actually look at a person's chemistry and tell their metabolic trends. And if you stay in a certain state for very long, you'll develop disease symptoms. So we don't diagnose you with the hair test. We see levels that are too high or too low, and we act like the farmer. See, the farmer does a soil test to figure out what kind of fertilizer to put on the ground, and they put nitrogen on the ground typically because they need calcium levels to raise in the plant. Now, with the wellness revolution, what do? Oh, my zinc is low, let me take zinc.
Mm-hmm.
But the elements on Earth do not work that way. Zinc lowers sodium and raises potassium, and you take zinc and your body's levels will typically actually go down, not go up. And so this was very amazing. When I first started the supplements, for the first 3 months, I felt absolutely fantastic. And they told me, you need to do a retest. I'm going, oh, but I feel great. So I went 5 months and all my symptoms came back again. So I did a retest. And out of all the recommendations, there was a supplement that they had me taking 2 tablets 3 times a day. They changed it to 1 tablet 3 times a day. And within 3 days, all my symptoms went away again. And I became horrified because I had cabinets full of natural vitamins, minerals, and supplements. And whenever I had a symptom, I ran over there and I didn't reduce what I was taking. I spared no expense in taking all this stuff that was supposed to be good for me.
Right.
And so it was a real journey, which then led me onto the detox equipment, because our body is wonderfully made. See, every cell in our body by design has an enzyme binding site, and it has I call them new car parts, a mineral, like your bones, teeth, and nerve fibers. The ideal OEM part is calcium. Like the man's prostate has more zinc. Our thyroid has more selenium than any organ in the body. So with our environment, with our food, we don't often have the ingredients that we need to have healthy cells. But then even if we do, sometimes there's biological equipment in our body that are out of whack that won't let the body transport that desired mineral to the cell. So whenever we can't do something, our body's so smart. Like if you have the key to your front door, you can go in and it works great. But if you lost your key, a lot of times you'll go around to the back door, maybe crawl up a ladder, open a window. You end up at the same spot, but you expended all that energy.
Yeah.
Look at everyone. They're all fatigued. They're worn out. That means their body's doing all these workarounds, using junkyard parts, all these toxic elements. I mean, even cadmium, of how toxic it is, it's right next to zinc on the table of elements chart. So your body uses cadmium. It'll attract it like a magnet. So when you get on this hair analysis program, your body goes, I won the lottery. I can use the good stuff. So it dumps the bad. And if anybody's gone on a detox cleanse, you can feel kind of bad, right?
Right. So talk about that a little bit though, because, you hear a lot about detoxing and detox diets. Are those effective? Why, why is it important for people to understand the right way to detox, the most effective way to detox, and how to, I guess, open up their detox pathways?
Right. Yeah. Well, thing that's popular right now is chelation. They'll either use natural chelators or drug chelators. And one of the things people need to realize is, first of all, chelators are non-discriminatory. They are going to take good minerals with the bad. And if your body was using lead for calcium or cadmium for zinc or aluminum for magnesium, that cell is working at maybe 10%.
Mm.
And if it didn't have that toxic element, it wouldn't work at all. And the body's gonna go for something rather than nothing. And so if you do a chelation and you didn't fix the reason why, your body can't utilize the right part. It will end up making you weaker. You know, a lot of people, they'll go through a lot of symptoms when they're detoxing, and then they'll feel better for a little while only to feel worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because their mineral status is continually being depleted. So there's a safe way. So I don't believe in chelators. I believe in balancing your minerals and supporting your endocrine system so it itself gives up the bad element for the good. Because if there's energy and it's present and the sodium potassium ratio is working and your neuron action potentials are working and the sodium calcium exchanger, all these different parts, then your body will remineralize. It can become healthier, you know, over time. And when you're doing this program, it's different because your body freely gives it up. And if it comes out of an organ or a tissue, then it's in the bloodstream. It's when it's circulating in the bloodstream that you can have every imaginable symptom. And people are going, I'm getting worse, but we have to get it out of your organs to eliminate. You know, it'll eliminate in the hair when it's circulating in the blood. It'll go out your skin. It'll go out your urine, your feces. And so we want to encourage every detoxification pathway possible.
Okay.
Like, you know, dry skin brushing is super simple because the lymph system doesn't have a pump. So it gets the lymph system going. Your skin's the largest elimination organ in the body, so it opens that up. Coffee enemas are great.
Coffee enemas. Okay, I have to say we're going to just pause for a second on that, because you are the only other person on the planet that I've ever heard talk about coffee enemas or even bring it up. The only other time I heard about coffee enemas was, I don't know, maybe it was about 10 years, and I was reading about Max Gerson and the Gerson therapy for healing and curing cancer, which was, I don't know, he was doing that, over 100 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, I was reading about this and I thought, well, that just seems like a really good idea to do, even if you don't have cancer, you know, to detox and help your system. So Eileen, I went so far as to order the kit from the Gerson website, and it's still in the closet. I couldn't get any further. But yeah, so I was actually kind of I'm excited to hear you bring that up again. And I don't know, just talk about that for a minute. Why is that a thing, and why is it so effective?
Well, in order to become a practitioner, when I was in school to learn about hair analysis, I was challenged to take a daily coffee enema, a daily near infrared sauna, and then eat, you know, more vegetables and proteins and things like that. And so, you know, I just, you know, the first 2 weeks were heck because, you know, you don't have bowel control. It goes everywhere. It's, you know, lay down, stand up, you know.
Right.
But, you know, after 2 weeks, I always give my clients a 2-week coffee enema challenge. And I said, I'll never bother you again. And this is what's going to go wrong. And this is how you can, you know, overcome that. And it's amazing because during World War I, when Hitler's armies were cut off from supplies, I mean, they still had to operate on soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors always gave them plain water enemas. You know, enemas have been around for thousands of years, okay? But the first time they studied and documented the benefits were when a nurse started putting coffee into the plain water enemas, and the pain reduced significantly. And it became so famous, actually 3 universities, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, they studied what goes on. And in 12 minutes, all the palmitic acid and the caffeine from the coffee leave the rectal canal and go up the portal vein. That looks like a plant root all along your intestinal tract because it carries the nutrients, you know, to the liver.
Okay.
And so that caffeine causes the bile ducts to expand, and the bile is produced, in much larger quantities. So that changes the pH of the intestinal tract. It increases glutathione production 600%.
Oh my God,
People
that
take
is
glutathione
right.
supplements that don't really absorb through the digestive tract. And here they can do instead of drinking coffee, they can put it in the other end and,
Okay.
and get.
And get way more powerful benefits. So, okay, so it can't
So,
be decaf then. Just
right,
like a
right.
good French roast.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Now, Gerson used a lighter roast coffee, but if you do daily coffee enemas, your skin will literally turn green and you will not have as much come out, because I did the Gerson thing too. So I went to a medium to a dark roast coffee. There's still plenty of caffeine in that. And it also fills your bloodstream with free radical scavengers and antioxidants and turns on enzyme systems. I mean, I've had clients come that were on prescription medications, had a whole laundry list of symptoms, cut their hair for their hair analysis. They came back a month later and the guy said 80% of his symptoms were gone. Then I cautioned him about starting really slow, because your body's going to detox with these supplements. Instead of taking them 3 times a day, maybe only take a quarter dose once a day. And he goes, I'll just do 2 coffee enemas in a day. That's no big deal. It had transformed his life so much. So I have a new invention coming out this fall.
Of course
because
you do.
to make this easier for people to do. So I've got a glass jar with a handle that's 33 ounces. So not all glass, even though it's approved for food, is toxin free. So I got the SGS test, had the right kind of glass, and then there's an adapter that you screw on with a pump. So you can stand up in the shower and then just take a long shower, and when it's time to eliminate, because that 12-minute marker, then you just jump on the toilet. There's no laying down, standing up, any of the mess.
Okay, well, that's very appealing. And I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna order your new invention, and that'll be my first foray into that experience.
But yeah, it helps. I mean, I've had clients that couldn't even walk down to the sidewalk to get their mail. And in less than 2 weeks, they're saying they could walk without pain. I mean, it's, if somebody was going to ask me, Eileen, I'm only going to do one thing for my health, nothing more, what would you tell me to do? And I would say, do a coffee enema. That's my answer.
Wow.
I mean, at the turn of the century, before we had medications and all the doctors, everyone used to do regular coffee enemas. This is a thing in the 1800s, early 1900s, and then we, got away from it.
Yeah, then we have a pill for everything, so nobody has to go through that process. How interesting. I mean, it always makes me wonder, like, who was sitting around one day, maybe drinking a cup of coffee and went, I have an idea. What if? I mean, thank goodness, but it's kind of like, raw oysters. Who decided to pry that little thing open and go, nah, that could taste good. I mean, I'm glad, because I love them, but yeah, I always wonder about the where those types of things that are very helpful or delicious, where they came from. Who decided that, a coffee enema was going to be a really good idea, but thank God they did. So you're seeing, I think that's a huge testimonial, though, in all seriousness, that if somebody was to ask you, what is the one thing, if I'm only going to do one, and you say coffee enema, that's kind of a big deal.
Now, a lot of people that are against that will say your mineral electrolytes are going to go to heck. Well, you have to keep in mind, I take the supplements recommended by a hair analysis. I do daily saunas, so I'm sweating out a lot of electrolytes, and I do a daily coffee enema. But yet when I was in a car wreck and all my blood work was done, everything was absolutely perfection, to the point where they asked me, well, what are you doing? They had one of those S3 antioxidant machines that Dr. Oz had on his show. I tested higher than Dr. Oz, 80,000. And they were using that machine to try to sell me antioxidants. And they go, well, what antioxidant you take? I said, I don't. I do a near infrared sauna, daily coffee enemas, both of those things increase antioxidants in your body.
That's so interesting.
And
Okay,
then I went and got life insurance, for my business. And it turns out that in 5 years, this company had never even issued somebody life insurance with the healthiest classification possible. And again, I'm looking at them, they're overweight, they're eating junk and all this. I go, oh, well, how do you do that? Daily coffee enemas, near infrared saunas, taking my hair analysis, and doing those supplements. I mean, it just works. I'm not allergic to anything anymore.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So you literally cleared up all the allergies that had come over
Yes,
you.
no allergies. I sleep fine. I don't have any pain in my body. I had psoriasis all over my body. My hair was falling out. Now it's just like so thick,
Yeah, it's beautiful. Do you
And
think then, do you assume or know that it was due to really all of this toxic buildup over the course of time in your system from the
what
way
I
you've been exposed to?
what I believe is we are created to have a certain mineral in each enzyme binding site. And when we have too many of those that are junk, disease will occur. If you are completely mineralized and everything like that, then you won't have disease. They did a 10-year study where they simultaneously did blood, hair, and urine to figure out these metabolic trends. And your body, because of the circadian rhythm and the stress that you go under on a daily basis, you'll switch from being fast, overactive, like a stress response, like the lion's chasing you, you go to the sympathetic dominant nervous system, and then you come back to relaxation, and all those events will use up extra amounts of certain vitamins and nutrients and all of that. And if you can maintain a more balanced average, to have a flexible metabolism, a lot of people, their metabolism has been crashed. Maybe they're stuck in first gear going 100 miles an hour, or somebody's in sixth gear going 5 miles an hour. Neither person has good energy. And they have different nutrient requirements. And so it's just really imperative to achieve, a balance, identify who you are, the biochemical individual, like having a keto diet for somebody with an underactive adrenal and thyroid gland is going to slow those glands down even more. I mean, so it's not a one size fits all. And that's what I loved about the program.
That is so fascinating. And I want to talk about the infrared saunas, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit and just help people understand the importance of cell health and how the processes that cells have to go through, because I think it speaks directly to all of this, what's effective, what's not effective, what's going on in there. And to your point though, I came across an article the other day, and it said, number one, chemicals are a $750 billion business, which should be no surprise. But as of 2011, there were 84,000 legal chemicals used in the US, although many of them have not yet been tested thoroughly for human safety. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so we're surrounded by it in everything in our houses and in the atmosphere, in the environment, in our work environments. And then I thought this was interesting. The CDC started testing Americans every 2 years to access what they called their body burden. And then in 1999, they found 27 dangerous chemicals in the testing. Today, in people, the average number is 219 and growing. The chemical substances that are being found in the average person, which is frightening.
Yes.
Frightening. And, it obviously, it speaks a lot to why, even though we're smarter and more technologically advanced than we ever have been, but yet we're sicker. and can't seem to figure that out. So I thought that was really interesting. And I do want you to just give a little brief explanation on why it's so important for people to understand it's not just what you are ingesting, whether it's vitamins and supplements and healthy food, and how that's affecting your gut and your elimination. There's a whole ecosystem inside of you, and how your cells are functioning is critically important. So would you just speak to that for a minute? And then I want to talk about saunas.
Sure. Your greatest exposure is what you inhale, because you're doing that like every second. And indoor air is 3 to 5 times more toxic than outdoor air. Think about it. You know, the pressed wood, the carpet fibers, the types of paints, your couch, just the draperies, everything is outgassing in your environment. Then with our HVAC systems, our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, it's giving us that ventilation. However, through the ductwork, it strips negative ions out of the air. And our bodies have to have 4,000 to 5,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter to function normally, or we begin the body's wisdom of shutting down, you know, different things in a car. Think of an alternator's bad and you had to jump start your car. You won't use your lights and you won't turn on the radio so you can go farther. That's what your body does. You don't know it, but it is shutting down functions in your body. And so we can't control the air because we're at home, we're at work, we're, you know, outdoors. So the number one thing about balance, besides needing to detox, is you got to start protecting your environment, doing the things that you can do. Like I've got a plasma air purifier that increases oxygen levels 70 to 118%. It can work on that power bank that you charge your tablet with. Super convenient. When you have it in the sauna, it will have you sweat twice as much and your, you know, core body temperature increases. So address what you're breathing. Another impact is what are you putting on your skin? It's the largest elimination organ. You put things on your skin, it's in your bloodstream in 30 seconds. So we have a whole natural skincare line with nourishing, traditional type fat soluble vitamins and things like that that actually work. You can look at the product reviews. So, you know, what you breathe, then what you drink. You know, we have water ozonators that can clean your water. But beyond that, another fabulous system in the body is the oxygen metabolism. We're indoors. We're more sedentary. We don't have as much oxygen naturally with pollution in the air. And so what does your body do when it doesn't have enough oxygen? Cells begin losing their protective enzyme coating. Then they become susceptible to infection from pathogens and yeasts and parasites, and they can even become rogue and become cancerous. And so one awesome way to detoxify the body and boost the metabolism is to make ozonated water. Even the EPA, when there's contaminated groundwater, will ozonate the water to break down the toxic chemicals. And so we're mostly water, right? So we can ozonate a glass of water and it has 3 molecules of oxygen, O1, O1, and O1. And everything in our environment is either negative or positive. So a paired, an O2, that's oxygen, is stable, but that third singlet breaks off, decontaminates the liquid, and then if that's not a miracle enough, okay, it becomes extra oxygen in your system. And 1 molecule of ozone is pathogenic as 3,500 to 10,000 molecules of chlorine, but we can't drink chlorine. Yet ozone is smart. It'll only go after the cells that don't have the protective enzyme coating. And so it will enable more of our cells to develop that coating and be more resilient to infections. And so that's another angle.
Okay.
So you have all protections, breathing, drinking, putting on your skin. Then we have to do everything we can to get rid of stuff and encourage elimination. That's where dry skin brushing, jumping on those rebounder trampolines, or even use a vibratory plate exerciser. Actually, the trampoline and the vibratory plate exerciser lengthen our cell telomeres, so it's
Really?
anti-aging.
Really? Just jumping
Yes.
on those little round trampolines, like jogging in place kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, they've been around forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just figured,
But
it
they're
was kind of, I always thought it was kind of like, oh, like a person that really doesn't like exercise who could maybe like, kind of use that as I'm going to bounce on this while I watch my soap opera for 20 minutes and feel like, so I kind of poo-pooed it, but now I'm like, maybe I was clearly wrong about that, but not for the same reasons.
right. Yeah. So that's a fantastic adjunct. And then doing a sauna. I mean, it's been undisputed for thousands of years that heat stress therapy is good, but we've entered the modern era. It used to cost somebody $300 a month to take a daily sauna because of the traditional heaters, and that was based on ambient heat. We did have the rocks where you could pour water over and it would make negative ions, but we went to the far infrared saunas. So it's much more affordable. Yeah, you had to have a dedicated breaker. You still have to heat it up for a half an hour to get it to about 145 degrees. Then we found out we were blasting ourselves with harmful EMF from all these heaters in the sauna. And about the time that I was doing the schooling for becoming a practitioner, I had a awesome far infrared sauna. I spent $2,800 on it. I thought it was the greatest thing. And I was challenged to do near infrared. And I'm going like, well, I think you're just prejudiced. And my
Hmm.
son was taking biochemistry and biology at the University of Washington. So I'm asking him, son, what is this about the near infrared? He goes, oh, mom. And he sends me a link to all the phototherapy and how it activates the cell, the
Really?
mitochondria, to make ATP. Now we're eating food to digest it to make ATP. And here's a hack you can just shine light on you that makes you feel good and get energy.
That's amazing.
And so I was going to California, so I got myself a near infrared sauna. Day one, wasn't that impressed. Day two, I started sweating more. Day three, I started profusely sweating, and I had this clean, energetic feel on me like I've never had before. It was like phenomenal, life-changing. And so, then I switched to near infrared.
So I want to just make sure that everybody understands, and even for my own clarification, tell us again briefly, what is the significant difference between far infrared and near infrared saunas?
Far infrared emit, about 3,000 nanometers of light and more. And that light affects the water molecules in your body. I mean, an analogy would be like putting something in the microwave. It's the speed at which the molecules rub against each other that create the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that particular wavelength cause your water molecules to move and increase heat. So it expands your blood vessels and does all this wonderful things. I mean, sauna studies show that if you take 5 saunas a week, you're going to live 7 years longer and you're going to be healthier, have a better quality of life. So that's, undisputed. And then there was the advent of incandescent bulb. Like if you go to a food buffet, then there's heat lamp bulbs on there.
Mm-hmm.
Heat lamp bulbs can be tweaked a little bit. There's some that have more of the therapeutic frequencies than other brands. So my brand produces 550 to over 3,000 nanometers of light, but most of it's in the therapeutic range. It goes from red light, like a mountaintop, up to about 1,100 nanometers and goes down. So those light frequencies, just like the studies done on phototherapy, it doesn't matter the delivery device, but that the cells actually absorb it. And when they become too full, they pass it off to other cells, but it activates your mitochondria. Near-infrared light is why we have photosynthesis and life on Earth. About 30% of sunlight is near-infrared. And so if we get the near-infrared on our cells, it boosts ATP tremendously. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why Hope for Cancer says don't take any kind of sauna, but an incandescent near-infrared sauna, because cancer cells have the lowest ATP numbers. And it makes a dramatic, change in a person's therapy if they're doing that kind of a sauna. And so that's the type of delivery device I chose for my saunas, is to have the incandescent bulbs.
Okay.
And another benefit that you get out of this sauna that's not available anywhere else, because of blood shunting, which doubles the circulation effect. Like if you're in any sauna, the heaters are usually behind you on the side. I mean, it's like the ambient air temperature is constant. It's the same all around you. Now, in my incandescent sauna, the heat lamp bulbs, it's hottest on that side of the body that faces the bulbs. Yes, the ambient air temperature is warm, but it's hottest there. And your body does a wonderful adaptation. It's like, oh my gosh, it's hotter over there. So it shunts all the blood to vasculate the surface of your skin. So the circulation is just, in high drive there. And then it allows water to escape your bloodstream to cool you off. So then we teach people to wipe off the sweat immediately and then rotate 180 degrees. Okay. Literally, you can be sweating on one side of your body and have a cold backside to begin with.
Really?
Yes.
That is amazing. Okay. And so why is it so important to wipe the sweat off your body really fast?
So you don't cool down. You want your core body temperature as hot as possible. That's what'll kill the weakened cells, the infected cells, and, build immunity. And so when you rotate 180 degrees and then that side heats up, you'll just be drenching. You sweat twice as much in half the time. And you feel fantastic, especially when you add the little Breeze Safe. There was a European study, because over there, they believe half of the benefit of a sauna is your negative ion intake. Okay. And so they actually rated different brands of saunas, because some heaters, they would pour water over the rocks and it would produce positive ions, and everybody was fatigued and didn't feel as well. And then the ones that produced 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter, the people in there, their skin surface temperatures were hotter, their sweat volume was doubled, their rectal temperatures were hotter. And the strangest thing, you'd think if you were just hotter and sweater, you'd feel worse, but they felt more refreshed than if they weren't inhaling the negative ions. And if that wasn't amazing enough, when they got out of the sauna, their rectal temperature continued to rise. And so every reason why you take a sauna is to increase core body temperature, to sweat out toxins. Okay. And so combining that along with the fact you're working so hard to sweat out those poisons. There's a lot more toxins in sauna sweat than sweat from exercise. Exercise, you're activating your sympathetic branch of the nervous system. You do not get the detox. While you're in a sauna, it's activating the parasympathetic. So you got lots of toxins in that sweat, but it humidifies and you re-breathe it. So the Breeze Safe plasma air purifier is getting rid of all that toxic junk. It's very good at getting rid of VOCs and different things. I've got all the lab tests on the website. It wasn't until later that I found out that it boosted oxygen levels 70 to 118%. So why do we do meditation and deep breathing? So we can get more oxygen. So here's a little hack. Just set that device on your desk and breathe it. Sleep with it. You should read some of the reviews of how life-changing that device is. That's amazing. And the other thing with my sauna that I thought was very important is obviously to be non-toxic. and to not have it to need a preheat. I mean, how many times have you like wanted to take a sauna and forgot to turn it on, or turned it on and then waited and then had to leave because of an emergency? And so the sauna tent that I built is got a Class A fire rating. It holds in 95% of the heat. It has an R12 insulation rating with a radiant barrier. Because I started thinking, you know, those wonderful light frequencies that provide all the therapy, they travel at the speed of light. They leave, they go through a wall. So my tent blocks it in there. So that's why you're sweating twice as much in half the time, is because your cells have more exposure to make more energy quicker. And so it's, you know, an altogether fabulous system that has smooth walls. The toxic humidified sauna sweat is going to stick to porous surfaces. And then whoever had the sauna before you, oh joy, you can heat up all their toxic sweat.
Oh my God.
And get more exposure.
Right.
And so this is smooth to be able to clean down. Of course, you put an ionic refresher in there and it'll sterilize the place, you know. So we teach those things. And of course, we used organic cotton. It's ROHS certified. In America, your pants zippers can have 50% more lead than allowed in Europe. And so my sauna is built to European standards. So we're not having zippers with lead. We're using organic cotton. We're using zero VOC, you know, steel coated frame, you know, so everything, you know, is ultra safe. The lamp, for instance, when I was using competitor product, you know, when you take a daily sauna, you're going to move around, you're going to bump that. And it was like a branding iron, literally aloe vera burn cream time. And so for a couple of years, I tried different materials and came up with a polymer mixed with iron that you can leave that sauna on for 24 hours and touch the guard and not burn. And we achieve the not detectable rating on every contaminant the European Union tests for, which you're allowed to have so many part per million and still be considered safe. But we got the not detectable rating, and we got zero EMF. We've got snaps, you know, like earthing.com. You can get the grounded mats, you know, for grounding, you know, which is healthy now with all this 5G and everything. And so the tents come with the grounding snaps and the plug to go in the wall. So literally the safest place in your whole house, it's like a Faraday cage, is in your sauna.
That's amazing. When I started learning about your saunas, I was looking at a couple of rooms that we have that are full of boxes of storage, and I'm like, okay, it's time to clear out some boxes, which are probably full of toxic stuff, and make room for one of your saunas. I'm so intrigued by this. Just everything you said with you know, how you make them and the materials that are made, you know, just the air, the oxygenation, all of those things that I had never heard anybody else talk about when it comes to saunas before. And, you know, thinking back to going to saunas like in your gym, your health club, or, you know, public places. And I'm like, holy cow. I mean, all of the bodies that are in there sweating out all their nasty ass toxins. And then you go in there and inhale them all. That's a horrific thought, Eileen. I'm never going to think.
Have you seen those guys with their sweat towel that they've been lifting weights and wiping everything down with, and then they go and douse it in water and then wring it out on the rocks? I mean, like, I just can't. Especially now with COVID, you know, it's just like, you got to have something. And I mean, this thing works. If your hair dryer plugs into an outlet works, this sauna works in that outlet. Amazing. No special wiring. You can put it together with tools in 10 minutes. It has its own travel bags. Heck, I have people flying on airplanes taking their sauna with them, professional athletes using them.
Right. That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's say someone that is in cancer treatment? And I know that there's many different kinds. Is this something that for most people that they could combine this with their treatment and there would be definite then positive effects for them?
Yeah. There's on cancer.gov, they're shining near infrared light on inoperable tumors. It's actually, they're using it with some cancer medications, and it's making the medications more effective. I would always say for the person to consult with their doctor, but most doctors are recommending saunas, and now the trend is like, don't do anything but near infrared. There's a lot of multiple spectrum saunas out there. They caught on to the fact that near infrared is the healthiest. So they put in a few little tiny LED lights so they can claim that it provides those frequencies for you. But the intensity and the majority of frequencies are not in the therapeutic range. And so, I try to get something. We have red light, mid, near, and far infrared with the incandescent bulbs. And if you're going to spend time taking a sauna, you might as well do one that provides everything and, the healthiest benefit. And there's one other awesome component to this whole daily routine is activating energy production, hydroelectricity in the body. Now, before Dr. Gerald Pollack's discovery of exclusion zone water, it's a fourth phase of water. We think of water as ice, liquid, maybe vapor, some steam, but no, there's one other stage of water where the density changes. It becomes a gel and it stores energy. And so when we have 3,000 nanometers of light, which the bulbs provide, shining on a cell that has alkalinity to it, the water density changes. So we've got a product called Healthy Salt. It's got the highest pH in the world, 10.72, 20% minerals. Himalayan is less than 1%, 0.8%.
No.
And most of the salts, all the salts, Himalayan pink salt, you put in water, the ORP continues to rise and the pH drops. So it's inflammatory. I threw away all my pink salt. The only other one that doesn't do harm would be the French Celtic salt.
Okay.
But it still doesn't have as much minerals, doesn't have the high pH. And there is a Baja salt that's probably the second highest mineral salt in the world. But this salt, there was a Korean acupuncturist that I met, and he had all these glasses with pH drops, and they were all acid. So then, because I was a connoisseur of all these different sea salts, just about every one you name, I was using because I think I was getting all these minerals. So he would put a pinch in each one of the glasses and they'd still remain acid. And he put a pinch of healthy salt in there, it went blue. I said, okay, I'm getting that. Even though it's the most expensive salt in the world, I'm buying it. So I cut my hair, because that's what I do, is I do a hair test. So I cut my hair. I did a monthly hair analysis for 6 months. And I would go 1 month on, 1 month off, 1 month on, 1 month off. And my body dumped. Before that, I was a pore eliminator. And my body began dumping like a 50-year amount of cadmium and all this. So then I'm like going, oh, wow, I better make sure that that's not in the salt. So I sent it off to a lab and spent like $3,000 on testing, which I have on the website. And no, it wasn't in the salt. So we started researching about minerals. And then I came across the Canton marine plasma that during World War I, there's a mile-wide vortex between France and Spain, and they were extracting some seawater with plankton and doing injections, and healing everything under the sun, okay, because it would balance your external electrolytes and your internal cellular electrolytes. And lo and behold, when you looked at the mineral analysis of that plasma, it's almost identical to what's in healthy salt. So you don't have the plankton, but here's this mineral complex that your body loves. For instance, in Himalayan salt, there's 1 part per million magnesium. there's 6,800 parts per million magnesium in healthy salt. I mean, it's like when you're dealing with 0.8% minerals versus 20%, you can get a lot of therapeutic doses of minerals just in this salt. And then after I found out about the Dr. Polak thing, the salt is also got a negative charge, which is very special. So you drink water with healthy salt, you get in that sun and shine the light on you, and with all that easy water growing and storing energy, then protons can go inside the cells. And then the miracle happens, because our superheroes inside our cells that do all the molecular cleanup are called lysosomes. And those guys can't do their job unless they have protons. So then their pH drops like a rock. And so what it is that the alkalinity on the outside of the cell, the differential between that and the acidity on the inside of the cell, creates hydroelectricity and flushes out and detoxes your cells like no tomorrow. And that's why we see it on the hair test. People will use that, and it just, their body begins making this transformation out with the old and in with the new, what it prefers.
So would you, like, if you're going to, let's say people are listening, they're like, okay, I'm going to get me some of this salt. I mean, all right, are they going to be like putting it in their water, putting it on their food, cooking with it? I mean, do you almost like take this salt like in a specific way, like you would a dose of medicine?
Yeah. Actually, like I have clients that maybe they have migraines, but they've had a failed foot surgery, so they're on different painkillers and medications. Like that person has to take a toothpick and use it like a shovel, and whatever the salt, because it's the finest powder, shovel that up there, and whatever's on there, that's all the salt they can tolerate in a day. But they'll feel more energy and everything else. And so the directions say to start small, but you would work up to 1/16 of a teaspoons a day. And so we send the little scooper, and we sell the pH test strips and the 14-panel urine test strips. So you can see if your specific gravity's high, if you're dehydrated, or if you got kidney issues and everything else, that this will help. So I have to tell a story of a lady who had frequent urination. So she quit drinking water in the afternoon. She had high blood pressure, so the doctor had her like on a low sodium diet. And so at night, she would develop asthma symptoms. Now, there's an excellent book by Dr. Batman Galish, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. Now, he advocates taking some sea salt, and about how 80% of all of our health problems are because we're dehydrated and that we don't have, available sodium. So in his book, he describes asthma is a symptom of chronic dehydration in most cases, because you lose more moisture from exhaling than anything. So the body, as a protective mechanism, will begin to squeeze the lungs so that it retains more moisture in the body. And, so adding a little healthy salt to this person's diet, they began retaining more water instead of it washing out of the body, because salt, so to speak, sucks. It's like an antihistamine. So it will actually retain water in the cells. So she didn't have so much frequent urination, so she was able to drink more water. The blood pressure went down, because actually blood pressure in some cases can be chronic dehydration, as described in Dr. Batman Galish's book, because there's a hierarchy in the body for water allocation. Like your cartilage in your joints is low on the pecking order of priorities, because your bone marrow, for instance, is more important. So your cartilage will just dry up and disintegrate, and the body will send the water to the bone marrow. So the body, when it needs water, when it's in dehydration mode, it goes into allocation mode. So it squeezes your blood vessels to squeeze out the water, and then it sends the water on the nerve through the nerve sheaths to histamine receptors in the body. So how about all these people that are on these low histamine diets have high histamines? Your histamines go up whenever you're dehydrated. So healthy salt helps hydrate the body.
Okay.
And so we teach people, get the test strips, you know, it's
Right.
like go in there, and within days, you'll see that, you know, kidney function, liver function, all these things are like getting corrected, and you're staying within the healthy pH zone. I mean, it's like we drink coffee. I mean, put a little tiny bit of healthy salt in your coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's too expensive to salt your food, and because it's the lowest sodium salt in the world, it's not super salty. And so it's just chocked full of minerals. But what I do is I put, you know, a scoop full in every beverage I drink all day long. I have healthy salt all the time. And it's a protective mechanism because your body will prefer those good minerals. And if you are exposed to a toxin, your body will reject it. And we see that in our hair analysis, where higher levels of these toxins, instead of the body keeping them, because we know we're exposed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we see that happen. And then people feel better. I mean, you could read the product reviews. It's like medical claims as far as what happens to people when they dose with that salt.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to get some of that. I mean, and I think, you know, I've had conversations with other people about hydration, and, you know, I always question the recommendation that you have, you know, X amount of ounces per body weight. And so, you know, you've got to be chugging all of this water all day long. Maybe that's true. I don't know, but I just can't drink that much water. I can't drink that many gallons of water in a day. So I know that I probably am one of those, the many people that are dehydrated. But my question is it more effective to worry less about the massive quantity and more about the quality of the water that you're drinking? For instance, is it, if it has something in it like these salts or whatever, so that it's working the way it's supposed to once it enters your system?
Well, if someone's drinking reverse osmosis water or distilled water, even if they're drinking the amount of ounces per weight, they will be dehydrated, and the water is blank. So it will actually rip minerals from the body. And so the surface tension also is important, because if the surface tension of your water is blank, it's less hydrating and will not absorb into tissues as well. And so we recommend drinking high quality spring water.
Okay.
Is what we recommend. And then second best is carbon filtered water, but never distilled or reverse osmosis, just because of how it demineralizes the body and the surface tension. We have water structure devices that there's minerals impregnated into a disc. It looks like a coaster. You can look at water under a microscope before and after using that, and it turns into sacred geometry, like snowflakes. And it's like if you play classical music, the water absorbs and has this structure. Well, that structure is more hydrating to our body. And you know, there's also foods that have that gelled exclusion zone nature of that. I mean, indigenous people, when there was drought, they eat tuberous roots or chia seeds. And, you know, there's just different foods that can hydrate our body. And so I would definitely get on the right kind of water and then be adding healthy salt. And the healthy salt, as you can tell from the reviews, and when you try it, your body will crave it. You will naturally drink more water because there's healthy salt in it. So it's just the perfect solution.
Yeah, seriously, that's very exciting, and I'm totally on board with that, because I know I need to do something, but I just had this feeling that drinking, gallons of water every day was not the right answer for me. So that is something I'm super excited about. It's like everything you're talking about, Eileen. I have this visual of you like in a lab coat, like the science, like you run into something like, wait, this isn't right. And you run to your lab and you've got like beakers of things boiling and you're creating, you're creating all of this stuff. I think it's just amazing that you've had this journey of literally inventing the things that you needed to improve your own health. And now, and now you're helping thousands of other people with it. I'm fascinated by it. And I don't know. I got a list of things I could talk to you more about, but I would love for you to come back and share some more, because you have so much information.
Absolutely.
And yeah, but before I let you go, a couple of things. Oh, do you have a quick going rogue story for me?
I do. Well, after the nuclear power plant industry, I was in real estate and I was managing nonprofit corporations, and, it was a comfortable living. And I made a physical move with my office and I had a lot of space. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just have a place where people can come take saunas and do this. And so I made this shift in my occupation. And now, so that was kind of risky. It's like I spent a whole bunch of money on equipment and just different things, and kind of risked it all to change my occupation. And so now I started in 2010. So it's been this month, 10 years. 10 years. And I feel like I'm in my fourth life in this life because of all the different occupations, but it's play. This is who I'm supposed to be. I love helping people get their lives back because I've been there and tried everything. And, it's criminal that I didn't know what I know now, because I could have eliminated years of suffering. So it's my joy to do this. But a lot of people say, you got a good thing going here, don't do that. And I mean, in the early years, I made 1/10 of what I used to make. But I just had this drive that I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. So, I kind of took the leap of faith, and that totally changed my life.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you did. And I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. And look at you, look like radiantly healthy. Just it's oozing from your pores. You look amazing. So I'd say you're clearly an amazing walking testimonial of what a great idea for you to take that risk, go rogue, really risk your career and probably, some major finances to do what you did. And I'm just delighted. I'm sure that you are feeling like every day you get to wake up and live your purpose and your passion.
Yep, I do.
That's awesome.
We've got
Go ahead.
My real passion is fixing the structure of our spine because of what I went through when I was younger. And we have the neck shaper. I was issued the utility patent. I have 6 patents now, more pending. And we're actually getting ready through the city approvals. I've hired the engineers and architects. We're actually going to do a factory and start manufacturing spinal fitness equipment in America. I've got endorsements from UFC champions, NFL, Major League Baseball, that are using the equipment, and they absolutely love it. And so it's $100 billion a year problem for low back pain in America alone. I mean, it's like usually a person has had back pain or knows somebody with back pain. And so that's an exciting topic. There's going to be 39 products in that line.
Oh, that's amazing. So for sure, you're going to have to come back and talk to us about that once everything gets launched. That's very cool and very needed. I want to ask you one more thing, and then I want you to share where people can find out more about you, Eileen. So I wanted to ask you, what are some first steps that you would say somebody that is just really, in a bad way, they've got the usual situation going on with their, probably blood pressure, probably, they're on a bad diet, probably heart disease, all of the good stuff. They're not very mobile. And I know that you said earlier, if they were just going to do one thing, the coffee enema, what would be like the first 3 steps that somebody in that situation should start with besides the coffee?
Switch to spring water. I usually drink Fiji or Icelandic, or I just kind of Arrowhead. I switch between the 3. I actually did a 6-month trial where I went on and off Fiji water doing 1-inch hair analysis for 6 months. Your body loves the silica and the minerals in Fiji water. The toxic metals come pouring out of the body. So treat yourself occasionally to some Fiji water and you'll actually feel more energetic. So get some spring water and start drinking more. If you can't, the healthy salt, 1 jar is $75, but that's going to last you months. Okay. And so spring for that, try that, start, drinking more water. I mean, put it in your coffee, put it, it doesn't have a strong sodium flavor. And so you can sneak it in a lot of things. And just that alone, hydrating with that will change your life. Also, get out, watch the sunrise, go barefoot, ground in the morning. That resets your circadian rhythm. Stop watching the TV later at night because that's, going to impact with the blue light. So there's just some simple things that you could do that is going to transform your mood, transform your energy, improve your sleep without spending a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I agree. And I know you said the salt is expensive, but then when you think about it, like you said, it's going to last for months, but how much are prescriptions? Right. I mean, how expensive is that? And you're not actually getting any better. You're just maintaining the shape that you're in.
They should read the product reviews on the website. There's this woman, her son bought the salt for her. And she'd had high blood pressure, medicated. And after a month of taking the salt, it dropped 30 points. I mean, there was one lady who called in, the mother in her 90s would, wake up about 4 or 5 at night, eat dinner, and then sleep again. And so she started putting the healthy salt in her beverage. She started waking up around 11 a.m. and started being conversational. And, it's just like, it's amazing. If we're dehydrated and we don't have electrolytes, everything goes to heck. So it's just the basis of something that can make a tremendous difference in someone's lives. Because that book, Dr. Batman Galicia's book, anyone who has any of those problems should read that book. It's just fabulous.
I'm making a note. That's interesting.
Your body's many cries for water. I always tell people, you're not sick. You're just thirsty, toxic, and acid.
Yeah, it's true though. I mean, our diet is so acidic. What most people are eating all day, every day is so highly acidic that, they're just, they're ripe for any kind of disease. Right. This has been delightful. I'm so happy that you spent this time with us, Eileen. I think that you are just an incredible woman, and I am just, my hat's off to everything that you have invented and now are doing for humanity. So thank you, and thanks for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for helping getting the word out because, lives are changed, and that's what brings the joy.
I agree. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us today. I would really, really encourage you to please go over to Eileen's website and check out all of the amazing things that she has. You're going to be blown away by some of the things that you can get to really turn your health around at home. I just think it's worth the look. Do yourself a favor, because I know, you know what, being unhealthy and being sick is very expensive. Trust me, it's probably way more costly than some of the things that you could invest in to help yourself get healthy. So thank you all, everyone, for hanging out with Eileen and myself today.